So, welcome back. You just tuned in to Don't Wrestle Yourself, episode 2. Now, mid-production, I wasn't expecting this to turn from a documentary into a docu-series, but here we are, and I guess it's kind of a good thing because, dude, nobody told me that I frickin' misspelled wrestle in the first episode. But bro, nobody told me that it was misspelled in the trailer and on my original channel, SSP Self-Centered Programming. Nobody told me bullcrap. Nobody. But look, it's okay. We live, we learn, just like this documentary. Alright, just like this docu-series. And I guess it's kind of a good thing that it turned into a docu-series, which hopefully this is going to be finished by July. Knock on wood. But still, okay? Special thanks to Humanoid Freak for allowing this to happen on his channel. Me and Humanoid, we go back 9 years. I respect the heck out of him. And I know most of you audience, you're not used to seeing me in general. But hi, my name is James Ramsey, James L. Standard. Here I am to trauma dump. Nice to meet you. Shaking your hand virtually right there. Yeah. But yeah, let's just go ahead and cue the intro and let episode 2 begin.
Yeah. You can pet him.
Hey,
Hey, what?
he can talk.
He did.
I get him, don't worry.
Well, go get him.
Don't worry,
That's funny. Silly. I didn't mean wave your body. Y'all still got some snow. Well, there's a little snowball. My gracious.
You go like a girl, go like this.
Drifting away from the pink hair girl situation from the last episode, it was around the end of that 2012 to 2013 school year where I thought I might have figured out what was going on my writer's block. I felt like, creatively speaking, there was an idea formulating in my mind, and I know it may have sounded kind of crazy at that time, at least coming from me. Something I thought I could do. I just casually said, I'm going to be a wrestler. And I said that so casually, but a few of the other students predicted that too. But at that time, it was still just a silly thought lingering out there in my mental fog. But on the very last day for me to enjoy what should have been my graduation class of 2013, I showed up to the event anyway. I knew I wasn't booked to graduate that day, but I still showed up to bid my possible farewells to everyone. Despite my sorrow, I still showed up anyway to say my goodbye to folks who might not have even given an honest crap about me to begin with. I remember I was even stuck there at the high school and I had no way back home after the graduation was over. The parent of another student had to take me home herself. Leading up to this, though, through the whole pink hair girl situation and leading up to graduation day, at home, my grandpa was in very bad health. I know he was hospitalized during this time, but on the day I was supposed to graduate, a few hours after I get back from the ceremony, I received word that my grandpa, James Thomas Green, had passed away. And with his passing, the lifestyle I was used to up to that point was changed drastically. I mean, look, I was 19 years old when he passed away. That's pretty close to 2 decades. That is a very long time to get used to something. It could be said that if it wasn't for my pawpaw, that I wouldn't have as much of a love for pro wrestling like I do. Because every time I would go to visit his house on the weekends, I would be there watching SmackDown with him. I would be there watching TNA with him sometimes. Some Saturday mornings I would wake up and watch TNA on Spike TV when they ran the reruns on Saturday mornings. My grandpa was also funny when I would just be minding my own business trying to walk down the street. He would always yell, "Henry!" And I remember just like waking up on some Saturday mornings, he would be in the kitchen cooking breakfast for me, and I'd be in there watching Power Rangers Wild Force. I miss the way he made his sausage and bacon, like straight delicacy, the way he prepared that. And my grandpa, like, when I would be watching wrestling with him, I think his favorite wrestler at that time, when I was around, was JTG from Crime Time, because JTG was his initials. He would also call Batista Baptist, and he would call John Cena John Casino. So yes, after my grandfather passed away, that summer of 2013 was spent moving everything of importance from my mom's house to my former grandparents' house. But at this point, with the passing of my grandfather, that house was placed under my name. My name is on that deed, with co-ownership being held by my Aunt Jeanette. And the best part, the house is, in fact, paid for. But the summer of 2013 felt so unnatural, knowing that all my friends had moved on. I was probably in the process of being forgotten. I knew that despite my sorrow, I still had 1 more year left for school. But even at church, I started feeling a little bit disconnected from God. Those friends that were in my youth group, they started to dwindle until I was the only one left. Even to this day, I think I was part of the last true youth group Fountain of Life actually had. But get this, if I didn't have enough to worry about with my grandpa passing away, if I didn't have enough to worry about with all the constant sorrow, the broken heart, me missing my friends, my parents getting divorced, the pink hair girl situation, if all that wasn't enough, I ended up getting held back in the 2012 to 2013 school year. When the school year started back up, though, I had the goal to complete the 11th grade in one semester and finish the 12th in the next. But I was still carrying the sorrow with me from the pink hair girl incident. And I remember seeing her locker just by accident. And I remember between classes, I write her an apology letter. Later that day, I find myself sitting in the guidance counselor office where me and this pink hair girl are finally nipping this issue in the bud. And she becomes the first one to call me out on being unkempt. Even during that conversation, I didn't open up about my feelings. Even though I thought I was going through depression, I just lived with it. But the pink hair girl and I, we decided to give each other some space for a few months, but eventually we did start talking to each other again after school. And even at that point, it was still very seldom, and I could still read the room to an extent, knowing she was starting to feel uncomfortable around me. So I spent less and less time with her. But it was in the spring of 2014, my brother and I were given an ultimatum. We ended up getting erased from enrollment at the high school. We were forced to apply for a GED through the adult education program.
James Ramsey? Yeah, I know him. Went to school with him a while back. I remember this one kid, Rico Glenn. Not all that popular, but still tried to make his way through life without causing too much problems. Saw James walking up to the school one day. Said, "Hey, James." James just kept trucking right through him. Barely missed him, only by a couple inches.
So, about what Abdul was talking about. Alright, so I think it was either the day of or the day after where my brother and I found out that we got erased from enrollment. Now, of course, naturally, me hearing that news at the time, I was severely ticked off. And with it being a last minute detail, some people had to know. Like, some of the teachers that knew me, I felt they had to know about what exactly was going on. So, what I remember was I got out of the car and I was going to go walk to see one of my teachers so I could let her know what had just happened, that I wouldn't be attending her class going forward. So I got out of the car, I started walking, and I was stressed out highly. Now, the way I remember it, out of the corner of my eye, I do see Rico standing there holding his hand up, expecting a high five, but I guess I was just in my own little world. I was zoned out. I just kept walking. Alright, I completely swerved out of the way of his high five, and I just kept on trucking. And apparently that was a funny moment that still lives rent-free in both the head of Abdul and Rico to this day. And, like, much love to Rico and Abdul, okay? Rico, he was always a funny dude in his own right, and at times when I myself was feeling stressed out, Rico knew how to make me laugh at times, even when I was depressed in high school. And Abdul, like, we didn't hang out much at all, but we were still cool with each other, like, a lot. And heck, the dude even showed up for my 20th birthday with my other friends, Tyler and Kate. And in my mind, though, I was thinking I just wasted 14 years trying to work for a high school diploma, and I failed. I wasted 14 years of my life chasing a diploma, and I failed. Leading up to my departure from high school, though, a glimmer of hope started to snowball for me. You see, it was around this 2012 era, leading up into 2014, where my brother and I, we started going up to the local library a lot more often just to get on their internet, because we didn't have any internet at our house. But during our time up at the library, Josh, he was getting into a YouTuber called PewDiePie, and at that time, Josh and I, we was highly entertained by his Happy Wheel videos, and I figured, you know what, it would be cool if I made some Happy Wheel levels And oh man, what if PewDiePie was to play some of those? But look, you can still play some of my Happy Wheels levels to this day. If you go to TotalJerkface.com, go into Happy Wheels and look for Big Wrestling Fan. Yep, that's me. But anyway, besides that though, I started listening to some WWE mashups, and the mashups I found back then, they was incredible, and I was digging it. I was wondering if I can make some of those one day. But, you know, my brother and I, we started playing with our Windows Vista computer. We saw that we had Windows Movie Maker on that. I figured out how to play 2 songs at the same time on there, and I started experimenting, wanting to make some new mashups, and it was like right there at the back end of 2013, December actually, where I think I made my very first mashup of Ryback's first theme and Fergie's London Bridge. I think that was my very first mashup. But yeah, the more mashups I heard, the more I felt myself getting inspired, and I started to feel creative gears starting to turn again. And like, my brother and I, we even found a camera. We figured out how to use that, and we didn't even need Will's help anymore in making our videos. Like, we found out how to do it on our own. Now, before I knew it, I started filming a few things here and there, and I started getting things prepared for a set of series that I wanted to upload to what is my James Self Standard channel today. I remember trying to make some of my my classic Ernest books into poorly animated cartoons. I even had a silly news show called UIN, Useless Idiotic News. And my brother, he was also getting into gifts with sound. So even I tried making some of those with him. But creatively speaking, I still didn't know where I was going with any of this. I wanted to redo my backyard wrestling again, but my brother and I had access to a trampoline at this point. We tried to turn the trampoline into a wrestling ring and to relaunch the GBWA as a YouTube channel of its own. And we didn't need to rely on Will as the cameraman anymore for this. But my brother and I, though, we wasn't acting like some drunken goofs like other backyard wrestlers we saw on the internet. We knew it was a show. We understood terms like face, heel, kayfabe, and whatnot. But we each came up with different gimmicks. Yeah, I still had Self-Standard, he still had Painkiller, but we went out there and we held matches with each other in the trampoline. We were doing this while also visiting Action Pack Wrestling on a regular basis. Now, APW used to hold shows on another side of town in the fairgrounds for the 4th of July celebration. Now, my brother and I, we went over to help set up the ring, and during the show, Josh, he gets invited backstage because the APW owner at that time, Doug Hawkins, he wanted to have a chat with him. Doug invites my brother and I to come with him to Union for another wrestling show. So the next day we get packed up into the ring truck to go ride to Union. We get there, we set the ring up, and afterwards, so after we tear the ring down, we finally do go back home. But right after we get out of the truck, Doug says we need to come back the next morning so we can set the ring back up again back in the APW building. And he said that also paid for our wrestling training.
My name is William Roberts, and I'm the owner of Action Pack Wrestling in Chester, South Carolina. So, I met Josh and James. We were doing a show at the Chester Fairgrounds. Oh, it's years and years ago. We were setting up the ring. These 2 guys come up, helped us set up the ring, and introduced themselves, and it kind of went from there. We had seen some of the work they had did on their YouTube channels, and me and Doug Hawkins, who owned it at the time, owned APW at one time, decided, hey man, let's see what these guys got going on. We'll see if they want to be interested in helping us with APW. So that's kind of how we met Josh and James. We were doing a show at the Chester County Fairgrounds. They come up, they helped us put the ring up. We talked to them about doing some of the video work for us, and it kind of went from there.
But before I could even start my training, though, I get pulled aside and I'm expected not to get my hopes up. Wrestling training meant, according to my brother, wrestling training meant that GBWA had to stop right away. It also meant that the footage had to be deleted. But I was also told that due to my colon condition, I was not allowed to wrestle. Mind you, at this point, I'm already 20. I can't just go see a doctor. I don't have a job. I don't have health insurance anymore. I can't go get a professional medical diagnosis to see whether or not I'm cured. My mom laid down the law saying that I can't wrestle because if I was to get in that ring, something could have happened to my colon and I could have died in the ring. But because my brother was there, I could still train with him. Now, of course, I wanted to be there for Josh, but deep down I was wondering, what am I training for? Just knowledge? This knowledge had to be used for something one day, right? I mean, at this time, we was getting trained by this guy named Chad Wilson. To this day, I still nickname him Sensei because he was my first trainer. During training, someone finds out that we know how to edit videos. So Josh and I, we were hired to make entrance videos for the talent. They had a whole projector and screen set up. But when we were hired, APW management, they didn't know what to do with it until we stepped in and figured out how. Now, because I was still helping out at the time, I could still sit in the crowd for free while my brother played the music from backstage. Eventually, though, word reached me that Josh would finally be able to have his first match soon. So naturally, I assumed the position of music guy. I would end up playing the music for all the wrestlers for their entrances. So eventually, my brother, he does get licensed and he is ready to start wrestling himself legally because you do need a license to wrestle here in the state of South Carolina. So they make Josh the Carolina champion either 2 or 3 matches in. Josh even went to go wrestle for APW in Spartanburg and SEW Entertainment. While he was at the other APW though, I was still used in the show for some capacity. I was allowed to be an in-ring journalist. And I remember one night they actually let me pin Oscar after a match. And I also remember I was interviewing Chad and he slapped me.
I would advise that you stop disrespecting my brother. First off, I disrespect whoever I want, whether it's your brother or whether it's you.
And I also remember getting chokeslammed by Rage Davidson. But Josh and I, we ended up going to our first SCW show. I think it was Blaze of Glory 6. And Josh, he was actually refereeing for the time. But me, I was invited to do the cameraman work. And before the show, though, I still wanted to get some training myself done. But I wasn't used to the SCW training protocol. They had this deck of cards, and each suit represented a different exercise. And depending on which number the card was, that's how many of that exercise I had to do. I had to do that for the entire deck, and I was feeling exhausted. I was feeling weak. I never had a training session that demanding before at that time. And even after the deck of cards was completed, we had to jog around that baseball field venue that they had to run back into the ring and start doing flip bumps and regular bumps. And even though my body was killing me, I still kept trying to keep going, keep going, keep going. I had TJ Boss in my ear, keep yelling, do it again, do it again, do it again. And my mom and my brother, they had to stop them. They had to stop them and intervene on my behalf to make them stop training me. Because my mom, she never seen me train. She never seen me try to train. But they got scared for my well-being, and they insisted that I stop. But it was around this time where I'm starting to try and swallow my jealousy. It wasn't easy at all. I started to realize that everything I was praying for was going to Josh. I was praying for a girlfriend, and I didn't get anybody, but Josh did. Josh even got a driver's license and a whole car. I wanted to graduate, but Josh got his GED and he graduated first. Heck, I didn't even get to graduate until a year after he did, and at least the adult ed program offered its own graduation ceremony. So, my GED chapter, it was very strange to me. Very unnatural for like the habitat, I guess. I mean, yeah, technically it was still on the high school grounds, but I just know that it was nothing like I was used to, and heck, at least the adult ed rules seemed a little bit more relaxed than the high school rules to an extent, because I remember that I was even allowed to show up as Sting one day for their Halloween party, but yeah, by the time I was in the GED class, though, like, my SSP channel was already off and running for the first time, and, like, all I remember about my GED journey was that, like, as soon as it started, I was in such a bad mood, like, from the jump of it, because, I was still a little bit heartbroken just being removed from the high school enrollment, and I was just upset that I wasted all that time for a high school diploma just for it to never come. Alright? And the way the GED system worked, I would have to take a pre-test there at the school, but I would have to go all the way to Rock Hill to take the individual test, one subject at a time. Alright? There was one for English, math, history, and science. Now, to pass each test, though, you needed to get a passing score of at least 150. And yeah, my mind not being as sharp as others, it was kind of tough. Like, I did study, yes, but again, this wasn't like high school. It wasn't like I had a resource class to work with around this time. I just had to try and figure out everything as it was presented at that time. And again, easier said than done. But thankfully, though, the GED program did offer a graduation service of its own. That way I could still walk the stage in my cap and gown if I needed to. But despite being kicked out like we were, Josh still graduates first. Not only does he graduate first, he still graduated before me. Like, originally, remember, I was supposed to graduate in 2013. Circumstances prevented that from happening. But Josh, he still got to graduate himself in the same freaking year. The same freaking year. Not only that, he went to graduation with the AP.2 Carolinas Championship as well. Like, so that shadow was looming over me so dang much, and that jealousy was just gnawing at me, and it just, I still kept feeling inferior to Josh. But Eventually, though, it didn't matter how many times I failed my GED test. I just kept getting right back up, and I just kept trying to push forward, because I had no other choice. I really wanted to succeed. And I even heard a rumor floating around that apparently if I failed too many times, I would have to actually start paying for the test. But again, like, I think it may have been shortly after May 2015 that I ended up already having only 2 tests left. The science and the math, because those were my weakest subjects. But due to the nature of my channel at that time, and due to me being a wrestling fan, I kind of wanted to make a cheesy prize for myself. I remember making the GED championship, and I left it in the office of Miss Kerr, who I think was the adult ed principal, I guess. But still, I left the belt in her office, and I said, look, I'm leaving this belt here until I pass my final test. Alright? So, I remember even taking my camera with me to Rock Hill to actually film my genuine reactions to passing those tests.
What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? I'm about to go to Rock Hill to take my GED science test. Hello, everybody. This is my teacher, Miss Wally here. Say hello to Miss Wally, everybody.
Good morning. How are you? It's so nice to see you. I am the teacher of the GED class in Chester, South Carolina. I have some awesome students. One of them is James Ramsey.
Right here, even though I'm upside down.
He is doing a fabulous job, working so hard, and I'm so proud of him.
Dear Lord God, Father in heaven, I really need this test, Lord. And I needed to pass this thing, Father. The devil's been taking me out here and there and everywhere. And Father, I just need help. Lord God, I beg of you, please let me get a score higher than 149. I've been stuck in a school program since 2001. And I feel really bad about myself due to failing my graduation back in 2013. I've been getting screwed out of a high school diploma here and there, and Lord God, I just wish that I could actually finally pass this thing, Lord. Please let me get out of... Please help me escape this school program, Lord. I don't want to suffer anymore. In the name of Jesus, I pray and ask. Amen and amen. On site?
This is 917 GED Science 152 passed.
Oh, 1 second.
And your winner of the match and number 1 contender, James Self-Standard.
Yes! I passed!
It did not give you your score.
What?
It didn't give you your score.
Let's see. So, I passed. So I did it? I did it?
You passed according to this.
And your winner of this match and new GED champion, James Self-Standard.
Yeah! Whoa! I did it! Woo!
I remember saying that if I passed the science test, then that would have made me number 1 contender for the GED championship against the math test. And when it came down to that math test, I won. I got it by just 1 point. If I would have missed one more question, I would have lost. So yes, I actually did get to graduate, thankfully, but the more that I've been thinking about it today, if I would have graduated on regular circumstances, at the time, I wouldn't have been able to share the moment with my YouTube audience. So I guess, who knows? God bless the broken road, I guess. Because I guess if it wasn't for me failing as many times as I did, maybe, just maybe, my graduation wouldn't have felt as big. Maybe somehow God knew I wanted that internet audience as well, but still it felt good. But still, the idea of coming in second place again really hurt. I wanted to wrestle, but because of my condition, I'm told that I can't, but Josh can. Because Josh was getting all the attention, because I saw my mom investing into helping him out at the time, I thought that the only thing expected of me was to just live in Josh's shadow. I saw my brother getting all the positive attention, and I felt like nobody cared for me. I had no spotlight, but I wanted one. At this time, I was still trying to get my YouTube channel to have some momentum, but creatively speaking, I just wasn't inspired yet. Rewinding back to 2011 though, I remember there was some free time going on in my resource class where I was introduced to another YouTuber, and this is the actual first YouTuber I actually take note of. This is the first YouTuber I become a fan of, and this guy, he actually had his own series going on, and I started finding myself trying to take time to actually look through this series, and I was getting highly entertained. The YouTuber I was introduced to was D6, the angry black man.
The rice smells and tastes like they had it inside of an Asian boy's booty hole for 4 years. Now don't ask me how I know what an Asian boy's booty hole smelled like. I was in jail. It was a traumatic experience.
So I started watching him a lot more often in 2012, but in 2014 I actually started commenting on his videos, and before I knew it, D6 and I were hitting it off. We're actually talking to each other more often through his YouTube comments, and seeing somebody like him at his level of fame taking time out of his day to reply to my comments, it really meant a lot.
Damn, I ain't got my nigga, what's his name? Oh, James, there you go, James Self-Standard. I'm gonna go ahead and read yours, James. This is my nigga James Self-Standard. He's a good fan of me. He sent me this letter. James Henry Ramsey, the Self-Standard, my good friend, who is a loyal cigarette, but a little hard-headed. I love it. This is real nice. I'm gonna hang this up. I always say, success is a giant pie, and everybody gonna get a piece. Your piece ain't came yet. Wait for your piece.
Eventually I found myself at the back end of my creative flow for my James Self-Standard channel. I mean, yeah, back then I was still making a very small amount of mashups and YouTube poops here and there, but my original idea for just trying to make skits, it wasn't really going anywhere. Matter of fact, I even remember one time at ABW, Buff Bagwell came through and I asked him to promote my YouTube channel for me for a video, and he did it, but I couldn't deliver on what he was promoting, so that kind of sucked. But still though, something felt missing from that James Self-Standard channel, and I didn't know what it was. But I was eventually led to create a new account, and the name of that account? Self-Standard Programming. Now, the account was there, but I needed a game plan going into this. I had D6 in my ear, and during my wrestling training, another piece of advice has always stuck with me, and that's no matter how many folks are in the crowd, always put on the same show or the best show for anybody in attendance. That's the attitude I wanted to take with me into SSP. I wanted to just produce the best content regardless of how big my audience was. So even though the account was made at that time, I still needed to take a few months to strategize just what I wanted out of SSP before I dove in head first. But the month of January 2015, it came with a big, devastating heartache. I remember being backstage at APW, just doing my job, playing the music or whatever, but somebody rushes backstage and says that my brother and I, we need to hurry home, it's an emergency. So I get back home and the first thing I see is an ambulance sitting right there in front of my Aunt Jeanette's house, and my Aunt Pat is actually getting loaded up into the back of it, and I was told that Pat, she passed out on Jeanette's couch, and immediately I was like, I was scared. I was genuinely terrified for what was about to happen, and my instinct told me to do the one thing that Pat would have done, and that's pray. And look, if there has been ever a good example of anybody being a good Christian, it was definitely my Aunt Patricia Hawkins. And if there was anybody that wouldn't have feared an earthly death, it totally would have been Pat Hawkins. And anytime I was in pain, anytime I was afraid, Pat was there to pray for me. Both her and my Uncle Ray, who passed away 4 years prior to this. But I tried to hold on to the faith. I tried to keep my prayers going. But after the ambulance took off, the only other thing in mind that I could have done was just go back to APW. And that was a spur of the moment. I just wanted to go back and finish up with the show. And so that's exactly what I did. But after the show that night, yeah, I do get back home. And I'm still praying, I'm still trying to rest, and that's when I get the news that Pat had passed away. Now, at the time, I was still a little bit mad with God. I really didn't feel that connection with him. But still, in honor of Pat's memory, I figured, look, I still got to keep going to church more often. So that's exactly what I did Sunday. I just went to church like Pat would have wanted me to. But despite me being in church more often, it felt like my prayers were still going unanswered. My loneliness still kept eating away at me. Even at church, I had no connection to anybody. I wasn't good friends with the pastor's kids. We had nothing in common at all. In my small church here, I was a young man in my early 20s, and everyone else was either a little taller or a senior citizen. I felt severely out of place. But after months of planning and preparing, I finally got SSP launched with Sup Everybody Episode 0. My only regret launching SSP is the first words given out of my mouth were not Sup Everybody, but it was...
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I hope you're having a blessed day, and I hope everything in your life is going A-okay, because it sure as heck ain't in mine. Go ahead, Siggers. You can go ahead and sue me now if you want. I just had to use that once. It felt good. Everybody. But, sup, everybody? How you doing?
Only because I was a D6 mark back then, and Sigus had a fan base called the Sigus Nation. I joined them, and then thanks to them, I was finally able to get my ball to start rolling. Alright, if it wasn't for the Sigus Nation, I probably wouldn't have had my first push that SSP needed. When I created SSP, I looked at Sup Everybody as like my weekly internet journal entries. Just a place for me to just, turn on the camera and talk to the audience as me. No gimmicks, no weird edits or anything. I just wanted to be the authentic me talking to the authentic audience that wanted to be there. So when I launched SSP, at first I had all these crazy ideas. Like, on one hand, I was kind of inspired by like the classic Nickelodeon skits, like from All That or The Amanda Show, and I kind of don't want to give off that kind of vibe. I wanted to be that weird part of the internet. I wanted to carve out my own path and just try to work with my own aesthetic for self-standard programming. I did a series called Make Stardust Viral where I tried impersonating Stardust to do various popular videos. I remember doing the Bad Countdown Show, Weird World. I remember at one point I did bad commercials, but as time progressed, I ended up trying to adapt SSP. Now, even upon the creation of SSP, to this day, you can still see the fingerprints of Jim Vernay's inspiration. Heck, just watch Ernest Scared Stupid. You would see the way that Jim Vernay would switch his character up from Ernest to the old lady to the hillbilly. Like, Ernest would just keep changing his character, and even during his stand-up days, he would keep changing his voice, and even though he would change his voice, he would find a way to make you believe that you're listening to a completely different person. And because of that, I had like so many characters that I could play around with during my GBWA days, and I even found a way to adapt my own character roster as far as SSP goes. Each of my characters, they have like different series on my channel. I made a superhero character called Helpful Man. I took inspiration from the Amanda Show's Totally Kyle and I turned him into Totally Kevin. I created the King of Cringe at one point. I created Deadly Anarchy, who's just like an anti-me basically. He just likes destroying things now. I made a character called Simple Simon, who's basically just a simpleton who just gets excited about a lot of things. A redneck cow character named Cowie, who he just likes giving out bad advice whenever he can. A genie character named Jimmy. I dress up like an old man and I call myself Grandpa Papa. And through the years, thanks to SSP, I've been able to tell different stories through these characters. So now, even though I may not be writing out my stories in book form, I still have all these characters to play with here on camera. And I guess at the end of the day, that's really been my goal since I was in middle school. I want to make my imagination visual. But man, that green-eyed monster of envy started to whisper in my ear. What I thought I wanted out of SSP isn't what I was getting. When I first created SSP, I heard the words YouTube channel, and I thought TV channel. I wanted plenty of different series, almost like a TV channel would. I wanted SSP to be my imagination playground, but I didn't fully grasp that having that mentality wouldn't get me anywhere. I hear that everyone is supposed to have a niche. The algorithm favors those who can fall into a category. So needless to say, I wasn't going anywhere fast. My sub count was growing very slowly compared to other people that started their channel in May of 2015. Like, I'm Dante. He also started his channel in 2015. Now, here's where the domino effect begins. 2015, the Charlie Charlie Challenge becomes a thing. D6 does it. Then someone leads me to Tyrone Magnus reacting to it. A few months later, Dante roasts Tyrone Magnus, and from there, I'm introduced to a whole reactor community on YouTube. Tyrone, Dante, Akasan, Jinx, The Real Rejects, Subtho Bros. I thought the roast was hilarious, but what Dante had, I wanted too. The spotlight on SSP wasn't as big as I needed it to be back then, and I hated that. I wanted Tyrone to react to me. I wanted Dante to react to me. So after Dante made a sequel to the Tyrone roast, he roasted Ryan Wright. That's when I was inspired to roast Dante myself. But I wanted a gimmick to it. During my wrestling training at the time, I learned the art of cutting promos, and I thought me roasting various YouTubers would be considered good practice. But I needed to make it clear though, that every YouTuber I ever roast is done without hate. If I really hated these YouTubers, I wouldn't spend the time to watch and study all of these videos from them and dedicate a whole project for them that might take months on end to plan sometimes. The work wasn't easy, but the work was supposed to be worth it, right? In my case, no. I made that first roast, but I gave it a theme. I tried to play tribute to Nightmare on Elm Street because I was a big Freddy Krueger fan, but I wanted to go on my own path with it. Dante only roasted reactors, which I didn't know that many reactors back then, so instead of roasting just reactors, I wanted to roast YouTubers in general. My first line of roast victims included Dante, Tyrone Magnus, Marvin, D6, and PewDiePie. So I finally finished that first roast film, and it was an awkward bomb. I really wanted what Dante had, just like I really wanted what my brother had, and that was attention. I wanted people to react to my YouTube videos online. I wanted to see their faces react to my wild antics, and just when I thought hope came, I see a reaction uploaded from Dante. He's reacting to someone who just roasted him, but it wasn't me who he was watching. It was Jarrell's Alexandria. Now I got this devil on my shoulder telling me that I failed. YouTube isn't working. But then another Sigas fan stepped in. Jamal Rashid. He talked me into trying again. So I made another Dante roast film. Again, the style of Freddy Krueger. The second one was entirely better. I uploaded it on Thanksgiving 2015. I had my camera mounted and stationary. My jokes were better. I changed the cast of roast victims, and I even produced it in 3D. But still, even though I did a sequel, there was still no response from Dante. But at least my patience persevered though. In 2015, I started crafting what I wanted my fan base to be. A guy named Ramsey Khan in the Sigas Nation suggested that I call my fans the self-standard soldiers. And to this day, that's still what I call them. But upon calling them my self-standard soldiers though, I understood that a group of soldiers is called an army. So an army must have a salute, right? I remember what D6 had with the Southwest beef jerky.
1, 2, 3. Butterfly, butterfly. Diamond.
Stack.
Solid beef jerky, son.
Oh, that's nice.
But I had to come up with my own salute. And it goes like this.
Because you guys are the self-standard soldiers, and because I needed a special taunt for myself, I decided to make an official self-standard salute. No, a self-standard soldier salute. Okay, and I'm about to teach it to you. I was listening to Edwin Starr War last night, just thinking about different moves, and then it dawned on me about what to do. Alright, first of all, what you do is you make a C with this hand, right? And then with this hand you make another C. Okay, then what you do is you cup it together, boom, you got an S right there, right? Okay, then after that you take your thumb and your hand and you put it like right there very quickly. Yeah, when you do that, you yell booyah, okay? Because booyah is like my catchphrase now, apparently. Alright, here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Booyah! Booyah! Booyah!
Now, booyah from conception was just a word to make the salute pop. It wasn't until 2018 I actually gave booyah a meaning.
Also, moving forward, I have to keep telling myself this. I have turned booyah into an acronym for myself. First of all, when a lot of people say booyah, they spell it B-O-O-Y-A-H. Me, I spell it B-O-O-Y-A. So, with that being said, first, I said if I'm going to start saying booyah a lot, I might as well give it some significance. So first I started calling booyah as calling myself the booyah. The best overall outrageous YouTuber around. But then I changed it. I changed it to something to tell myself and to tell everybody out there. My words of advice are booyah, which means what was it? I said this last night. Be outrageously optimistic year-round. Booyah. Be outrageously optimistic year-round. That's it. And I know that's big words coming from my bipolar self. But anyway, wow. I gotta tell myself that more often, because I know usually, sometimes I'll end up getting into a bad funk of feelings.
Heading into 2016, everything was sinking in. I was trapped in my own head and nothing was working. I built SSP to be a stage with a spotlight, but not getting Dante's attention and getting all those dislikes thrown at me might as well have just been like tomatoes. I was still in Josh's shadow, still feeling insignificant to him in wrestling, and I felt like I didn't belong there either. And my inner rage was reaching a boiling point. Now, one thing that wasn't addressed so far up to this point is that I've lived a life where I was brainwashed into thinking I'm not allowed to get mad.
What's up, everybody? Okay, I've had it. Okay, I tried to be respectful. I tried to be nice to all of y'all. But no, nothing is freaking working. Okay? Nothing. Okay, I just went back to go check my notifications on yesterday's sub, everybody. Okay? Or today's, okay? Because I'm uploading this tomorrow. And 2 likes, which is good. 2 people agree with me. 1 person down in the comments. I respect him, but 6 dislikes. 6 dislikes! That is living proof! Living proof right there that nobody wanted to listen to me. I love all of you anyway, but none of you seem to care. Okay? I have had it up to here with all the disrespect, and nobody's even telling me why they hate. They just hate anyway. And it makes no sense, I tell you, no sense.
If I ever lash out for any reason, something's going to happen to me and I'm going to get in trouble. In my house, there was a ranking system of authority. And no matter what, it felt like I was always on the bottom. That even included being under my brother. I wasn't allowed to get angry. I wasn't allowed to raise my voice. I was always told, drop the attitude. So needless to say, for a long time, I had to swallow a lot of my emotions and bottle a lot of things up. To this day, it's still like that. But in 2016, as I was going through this valley, I suffered from an arm injury on my Razor scooter, and I was riding down a hill when I hit a bad spot in the sidewalk. And when I fell over, my arm wasn't good at all. For the next few days after that, I couldn't hold my camera correctly, I couldn't open a door with that arm or even pull a chair. But from all the unfinished business in school, to my grandpa and aunt passing away, to everything failing on both YouTube and wrestling, I finally reached my breaking point. Off camera for SSP, I felt like I became numb. I knew I needed to step away from SSP, and honestly, I didn't want to come back.